All right. Well, Mr. Joey Belden, glad to have you on here. How's everything going?
Good, Steve. Thanks for having me on, man. Just got done with hectic stuff during the holidays, and now just trying to really get prepped up for the next season.
Yeah. So what does that look like for you? We've got probably a couple months here, maybe 2.5 months before for competition. So how are you going to use that time?
Well, I got to use that time to save up money for the cost and entry fees and all that. But otherwise, just ever since after Worlds, I just been I took a couple weeks off, and then I just kind of just started working on a few things that Jay Minochik suggested for me. So for a little while, just kind of working on the different changes and adjustments in the swings, and so now it's back on the range, and now really starting to crank up the speed again and try to get faster.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of Jay, and obviously with your background, you were in the Air Force, I think you said for 5 years. I feel like there's no better mental preparation than to teach more discipline. Yeah, you can read self-help books, you can talk with psychologists. I had an awesome sports psychologist on here a few months ago. But there's really no way to simulate the benefits of going through something as rigorous and forced as the military. So how has that played out for you?
Yeah, I think when I was in the Air Force, definitely, kind of like you said, it teaches you to do discipline and hard work and all that stuff and mental preparation for anything to happen at a given time. And I think to apply that to long drive, I wouldn't exactly, I'm not really sure exactly how to say that, but at least like just overall mentally, I matured a lot through my time in the Air Force. Just how I thought about different things logically, and in a split second, you got to be focused. You may be afraid, if something comes out, you might be scared, might be afraid, but at the same time, you got to be ready to fight and mentally to handle it. And then also, the afterwards is just trying to, keep your mental game in check too. And I really think with long drive, I do think that's probably the best comparison is, it's a lot of it's mental. So whether you're doing something in the military, I think 80% of it's all mental and how you handle certain things and different experiences. And same with long drive, everyone we compete with, we're all fast and, everyone's a real athlete. Everyone hits the ball far, but it's really knowing what to do, like maybe for falling behind in the set if you're not hitting your best shots, or maybe you are hitting good, but it's also, the nerves that kick in if you start losing, or, it's like, how do you get that extra 10 yards? It's like if you're getting third place in each set and you're only losing by 5 yards, but you're hitting it good, it's like, that's where you got to really dig, like, kind of fast too, because it just, especially if you're in between sets, you got to think fast, like, how do I get that extra 5 yards, but also trying to keep your composure as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's really easy to just say, oh, well, I'm going to go swing a little harder and try to get those 5 yards. But like you said, 80% mental. Some people say it's all mental and golf is played between the ears, stuff like that. I feel like there has to be a certain minimum baseline of your athleticism and your technique and stuff like that. But then after you have those baseline criteria met, then I think it's all mental. And if you look back at Worlds this year, I think was a perfect example of that, where Martin performed better than anybody. He's extremely fast, one of the fastest, but there were people who were faster. There were people who had hit farther balls during the competition. But when it mattered, he really performed. Bryson really performed on his sixth ball, I think going into the final four or to get into the finals to sixth ball. I think it was Zach Holton. I mean, that's performing when it matters. And that is mental. That's not like, oh, you had a little bit better technique. You had a little more lag on that swing. That's all up here. And I think the military, I mean, if you're preparing mentally to kill or be killed like that, there's nothing more severe than that. So then when you show up to a tournament, you can take the importance and the discipline and the performing under pressure, but it's not as dire of consequences. So, I mean, so first of all, let's go back to your first long drive experience ever. what was going through your head when you first stepped up on the tee? And when was that?
So my first event I ever did was, I believe, in February or March of 2021. It was through the Amateur Long Drive League. And I was down in Southern California. I had a toy brain fart. And it was like Morocco golf course, something like that.
Excuse me for a second. I want to tell you real quick about my favorite training aid and a sponsor of the podcast, the Lag Shot. It's designed with what they call lag flex technology that'll help you to create and maintain more lag in your swing, which will give you better consistency and more speed, which we all want, right? But my favorite part is that you can go out and actually hit balls with it. It's a real club. They make a driver, a 7-iron, and a wedge. So you can incorporate it into your practice sessions to ingrain the better technique that it's teaching you. Once you try it, you'll see why I love it. Go to lagshotgolf.com/crush or click the link in the description below to get 15% off. lagshotgolf.com/crush.
Well, I remember thinking it was really cold and foggy that morning. So and I remember giving my girlfriend was with me. She didn't have her jacket, and it was still like in the 40s, like right before we started. So then she was like, so I had to give her my jacket. So then I'm just sitting there really cold, trying to keep warm. So that was really the main thing. Otherwise, I was just excited to be there. I had no clue what to expect. I didn't know how good I was going to be or how bad. I just wanted to see how it was. And so step up on the tee box. I didn't feel nervous at all. Like I said, I was just kind of thinking, man, I'm cold. I'm hoping I can swing okay. Like swing
Do you have a golf background before that?
Yeah, I grew up in a golfing family, so I started golfing when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And then, so I played a lot when I was a kid, and by the time I got to high school, I actually decided to play tennis in high school. So didn't play much golf in high school, a little bit here and there, and then after that, took a long break from it up until 2020. I picked up a golf club again.
Nice. I wonder for tennis, the serving move is obviously pretty similar to throwing a baseball. Like you have to have a lot of the hand release, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like that's got to carry over because obviously in long drive, and it's a pretty well-known thing that pitchers, baseball players, but especially pitchers do really well in long drive. And I wonder if that serve for you was helpful in getting speed.
I think so. Because ironically, my serve was the best part of my game. Overall, my skill wise wasn't I was good. I could compete, and, varsity and other tournaments here and there. But my serve, I had a good kick serve and like a first serve and second serve. But I used to serve up to about 140 miles an hour, and it was a lot of when you get up, I had a really good snap at the top of it. So I had power in that aspect. So I think with that, with controlling the wrist, especially in the other shots too, you're learning how to control the wrist, and also I was very flexible there too. So I think with that, I think that transition into golf and the long drive is pretty good, especially if I needed to keep my wrist flexible and also snap it hard as well.
Yeah. For sure. Let's go back a little bit again to your military experience. So what kind of, for the Air Force, what did they put you through as far as like a boot camp or different kinds of training for conditioning your body and mind?
So boot camp, a lot of it, we always had like PT in the morning, but a lot of it was either sitting in the classroom, learning about, everything, history of Air Force and whatever, right? And then we spent a lot of our time out marching in formation. So I would say PT was a good hour and a half in the morning, then breakfast, and then probably 4 hours of classroom, and then another 4 hours of just marching, learning, left face, right face, and all that stuff. So compared to, I would say, like I said, I wasn't in the Marines, but just from my knowledge of friends and this and that, Air Force is definitely a lot easier or less physical than the Marines or Army or anything like that. But But yeah,
Well,
so
you hear about, stories from Hell Week and like the torture that they go through and the low success rate and stuff. And you know that even to get in there, you're already like, crazy high percentage. And then if people are dropping out, it's like, wow, that's really, really tough. But like, of course it's different. But even if you're just to do everyday marching for a few hours, I think a lot of people that the mundane nature of that and like just like, what do you think about during that process? I feel like that's, of course, it's not going to be like, whatever, swimming 5 miles in open water and stuff like that, which maybe you did. I don't know. But I feel like what's going on in your brain when you're being forced to march and follow that directive and do all of that? It's got to be kind of hard to keep your focus and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. All I was thinking about is when is this going to be done and when is my next meal? And that was it. Oh, also, too, I was in San Antonio in the middle of summer, July and August. So high temp, over 100 degrees every day, super humid. So like that was really the only hard part about boot camp for me. Just growing up in California by the beach, where it's just you can wear shorts and a tank top all year long. Going from that to triple digits, from the dry heat to the extreme humidity. So that was just for me. That was only the hard part to adjust to. Otherwise, it was just it's like I just do what I'm told and can't wait to eat my next meal.
Okay, so then when you did the ALD event, what was your first experience in the PLDA?
My first experience in PLDA was actually the World Championships of 2021 in the amateur group. So. Because there was a couple of times I talked to Reese back about it, and just talking to the guys about it, and they said, we need some people in the amateur division for the Worlds. I was like, yeah, cool, I'm in. Yeah. So that was cool. Once seeing how well organized that event was, so I was like, I'm sticking with PLDA, and then for sure. And then by the time 2022 came around, it was because I had told myself. After the very first event in March of 2021, by then I already told myself, I'm just going to do all amateur stuff, see how well I can do in this group. And because I always had it on the PLDA too, but I didn't think I was ready for that. So I told myself, I'm just going to do amateur 2021, and then next year I'm automatically going to do pro, regardless. So it's just to actually motivate myself to get better and not slack off or whatever.
Was it a different like emotional experience when you then show up as a pro? Do you feel more nerves, or what's it like for you?
Yeah, I would say the first time I did like the pro event. So I think March this year, I think I only did the regional. I didn't do the tour event. But so then I felt a little more nervous because I didn't want to like do really bad. I wanted to do good. And then my first pro tour event in May of this year, and that's when the nerves went away. I didn't feel nervous at all. Because I knew I was going to, I'm pretty sure you were there, and the guy, pretty much the best guys there. So I was like, you know what? Who cares if I get last place as long as I do good for myself and hit a good shot for me. And if I get last place, so be it. So.
Well, it's cool what you said earlier, where you're like in between sets, you got to think fast, and you got to say, how do I come up with that extra 5-10 yards? And I like the way you phrased it, because it's not just, I'm going to swing a little harder. Like I said, you have to then say, okay, well, do I need to flight it a little lower? Do I need to flight it a little higher? A cut, a draw, more spin, less spin? There's hot spots in the grid maybe. And that's a much more kind of, I think, intelligent and sustainable way to approach it, rather than letting the emotions take over and say, I'm just going to go all out. Okay, well, I just went all out. Now I'm going to go even harder. Now I'm going to go even harder than that. And that's not really, you're not going to hit very good shots, and it's not a sustainable way of doing it.
And the thing with that, and that's exactly what I did at Worlds. After a third set, like the only thing I could think of was like, I just got to go harder or faster somehow. So, because I couldn't figure it out in the short amount of time I had. And then all of a sudden, boom, there goes my shoulder. Shoulder is like, well, now I'm really not going to move on. So I'm just going to put it back in and just keep hitting, that was a funny thing too on that. And then on the fifth set, I was in so much pain. I was like, I'm just going to hit the ball, whatever, just swing at 50%.
Yeah. So tell everybody what happened, like how it popped out. And
so I think it popped out right when I after I hit the ball, and then I'm kind of, almost facing towards the grid, because there's been times in the past where my left shoulder will kind of get jammed, and then it'll kind of like not go back, rotate right. So I think that's exactly what happened there. I'm using 110% of my effort, and then when I got to here, my shoulder went back that way, towards probably felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was in my shoulder blade. So it felt like, but luckily for me, I've dislocated through doing other things and just being a kid growing up, like plenty of times. So I knew exactly what to do and how to get back in and, try to do it as fast as I could. And the first time is always the worst. But then once you do it, after you do it once, it's easier for your shoulder to pop out again. And then also, what the pain feels like, so you can mentally manage it too. So
that's been a recurring thing. It wasn't like a one-time freak incident.
That was the first time in golf or long drive where it's completely went out. So there's been a couple of times where it's kind of popped and almost like it felt like a weird pull, like, hey, like that's not good. But yeah, in a situation like that was the first time in golf for a long drive ever in that situation.
Yeah, it's a scary feeling, and I think probably a lot of competitors know. Like sometimes you get injuries, sometimes small injuries, hopefully. But you can tell, like, oh, that's not how the joint's supposed to move, or that's not how the muscle's supposed to feel.
Right.
So then you continued trying to swing a little bit. Were you able to?
Yeah. So I think that was my third ball. So I think when that went out, that was my fourth set. And I think on my third ball, it went out. So then I didn't want to quit. I was like, all right, I can get back in. I'm just going to hit these next three. And just, hit the next three. And then before my fifth set, I saw Will Hogue. He was off to the side. He wanted to check out my shoulder. And I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, you're not going to hit anymore, are you? I'm like, yeah, I got one more set. So a couple of people are like, don't hit anymore. It's like, you already lost. I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going to finish the race. I'll deal with the pain later. And plus, I was so full of adrenaline and all that stuff. So it really didn't bother me that bad at the moment. So then in my fifth set, I go out and 50%, just hit the ball, right? And I hit one shot. I forget which ball it was, but I hit one. I looked at it. I hit it so clean and pure. I just looked at it. I thought to myself are you kidding me? And so I'm like, I kind of chuckled. I'm like, all right. And then I finished the rest of my set. And then I look at the scoreboard, and that one ball I hit, that was my best drive in the whole day. After I hurt my shoulder.
Wow.
So then I learned a valuable lesson right there and then. It was like, all right, instead of trying to swing harder and faster when you're down, just don't hurt yourself and hit the ball correctly.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I feel like I've talked about in a lot of these episodes is, of course, you need to have speed, and you need to be progressively raising your baseline of what your max speed is and what your competitive speed is. There's a difference. But you also need to be hitting good shots. And like with Jeremy Nowak, who was on a couple weeks ago, for him, it's all about kind of slowing things down that help him to go faster. And when you just say, oh, I just popped my shoulder out of the socket and I was swinging at 50% and I hit the farthest ball, like that's so counterintuitive to people. But that's a testament to what I'm saying, that you just have to make a good golf swing, keep it in your tempo, your rhythm, whatever that is, and strike it well, and it's going to go far.
Yeah, exactly. Just that.
It's always fun, though, to hear what people's first experience is. And I think it's unique for you because of your military background. Mine was kind of weird because the first year that I got in was in 2015, which was the first year that things were changing in the sport in quite a while. And I had never competed in long drive before. But at that time I was doing a lot of CrossFit training and whatnot. So actually CrossFit sent a little media crew out and made a little video about me competing in the World Championship that year. So I was nervous really more for trying to make that video good and trying to do all right for that. I didn't really know any of the competitors, of course, like Joe Miller was there, and I'd seen his name a bunch before, and I don't even know who else, but I didn't know anybody. I had never competed in long drive, but I just didn't want to, look like an idiot. And thankfully, it went pretty well. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where sometimes you start off and you're naive to like a lot of the potential kind of like pressure. I think pressure is, mostly in your head, but like later on you'll be like, okay, well, I'm hitting against Kyle or I'm hitting against so maybe you'll know the people more and you're like, okay, well, I really got to hit a good shot here to win. But then I was just like, I'm just going to make my golf swing and hit my ball and see what happens. And every time I did that and kind of stayed within myself, I would win the set. So it's one of those lessons that even though I went through that, I wouldn't say I didn't learn it then. It took a few years. Even now I have a hard time remembering it sometimes, but
right.
It's so weird because it's one of those, it's the outlet in golf where you can really be an athlete and you can really let some aggression out, but you have to keep that in check and you have to keep your technique and everything. And it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird mix of that.
If I was 10, 15 years younger, I would not be worried about hurting my shoulder or my back or anything like that. I would just be out there just trying to kill myself,
But then it probably wouldn't work. Like you just said, you're swinging at 50%. You're hitting your farthest ball. When Ryan Riesbeck was on here, he was saying that his first ball is usually his best. And I think for him, it doesn't feel anywhere near to 100%. But that's what works for him. And of course, he's won a bunch of events and been a top guy for a long time. I don't know when he got in the sport, but it's been a long time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Usually my best ball is my third ball because typically my routine is my first three balls. It's staying anywhere between 80 to 90%. And usually I'll miss my first one or second one. Usually my third one's a clean hit. And then my next three is like, all right, now I can bring it up closer to 100%. But yeah, typically the third ball is usually the best for me.
So when you get down to those last three, or like, let's say the last ball, does it change if you have one in play versus if you don't?
Yeah, it does. If it's a good one in play, at least. If I'm on my last ball and I don't have a good number on the board, then I just try to stay to, all right, just a normal regular swing of one I could be most confident hitting. Mm-hmm. But if I have a good ball on the board rate before my sixth ball, then it's like, all right, I'm going to do a full swing and hopefully it's better. Mm-hmm. But I guess it depends on the situation too, because the May event, since that was my first PLDA event, Pro Tour event, that was my first time hitting with like a live scoreboard. So I think that changes to knowing what you're at and where the other competitors are at. Mm-hmm. So I think there's multiple answers to that question, but for me, I try to think as little as possible while I'm on the grid, just to keep myself relaxed and, calm and confident, I guess you could say too.
And how do you go about doing that? I feel like to say, I want to think as little as possible. I've said that. I've heard a lot of people say it, but that's way easier said than done.
So when I go practice on the range, that's where I put all the pressure on myself. I put all the nerves and the pressure and the expectations myself on the range. Even when the weather sucks, when you're using those really cruddy range balls with no dimples on them, with cracks on them, when the ground is uneven and there's half dirt and there's potholes and whatever. So I mentally put all myself like the pressure on that because that's where I feel like that's where you got to put the hard work in before, game time. And then by the time it comes to competition day, it's like, all right, I've done the work. Now I get to hit on a nice flat AstroTurf surface with brand new golf balls. And so, because I think when I'm on the tee box, I told a few other people this. Most of the time, I just think about the music, like what song is playing. Because if I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I got to hit the ball this, I got to hit it this way, I got to hit it cut, draw high, low, do this with my elbow, yada, yada, yada. then my brain just wants to explode, and then I get nervous and I throw myself off tempo. So I either focus on the music that's playing, even though if it's a weird song that I don't like or don't know what it is, I just pretend like I'm going to pretend like I like this song for the next 2 minutes, and then I'll dislike the song again afterwards. So if that doesn't work,
like that.
then yeah. So it's just a way to kind of distract me from like the nerves and the adrenaline, keeping the adrenaline under control too.
Yeah, for sure. When I had Dr. Mo, who was the sports psychologist, he said that anytime you're being impact conscious, you're killing your performance, and in our case, you'd be killing your speed as well. And I would count impact conscious as thinking like what you just said, the technical things of elbow and position and stuff like that. Anytime you're thinking about that and trying to manipulate that stuff, you're killing your ability to perform and your speed for sure. So if you can either do what you did there, where it's like, okay, I'm drilling this like in practice. This is when I'm really working on it hard so that it becomes automatic then in competition. I guess that's really the way. And, or maybe, just have a very clear system for, like Bobby Peterson has a very clear system for like how to hit a cut, how to hit a draw, stuff like that. And that way you're just making those little changes. And then again, you can just let your mind go on kind of automatic, so that you perform it without having to think about it. Dr. Mo would also say that you should have a routine so that you're just, again, like you're a machine. You're just performing this routine. And if you're focused on the steps of the routine, you're not going to be thinking about the outcome necessarily. But I know there's also like Gio Valiente. I've not had him on here, but he's also one of the top golf psychologists. And he talks a lot about really focusing on your target, like have a mantra in your head, like what's my target? What's my target? What's my target? And your brain will then come up with the answer. And it's like, oh, okay, it's like the left center of the grid or the right, whatever, so that you're being really precise and you're just focused on that. And your brain is just focused on getting the ball there however it needs to. I've tried both. Have you tried those approaches at all?
Probably to a much lower level than that. I really try to keep things, for at least for me, as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Because when things get too technical or too complicated, that's when my brain's like, boop, it just wants to dump everything. So I try to keep it either one step at a time or just, simple, as simple as you can.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. It's that's definitely a good way to do it. It's sometimes like what I said earlier, easier said than done, but
yeah,
I like it. So what's your plan then, and how have you done it so far? Because you've been in long drive for a little less than 2 years, right? So what's how are you going about gaining more speed? I think everybody who listens wants more speed.
Well, I think, at least for me, my favorite drill is just, whether it's grabbing like the arrow swing or some like weighted donuts. I actually really like those like weighted donuts, and just grab put it on the iron and just swing as fast as you can. I like doing drills like that. Can't do it 500 times a day, but just, in sets, 5-6 sets of, 5 reps, whatever, just swing as far as you can. And then even on the range, I'll go through either 3-ball sets or 6-ball sets where it's like, I'm swinging 110% on these 6, and then the next 6, I bring it back down to 80% and control the ball. And then that's all you do in sets of like 6 or sets of 3 of doing that. Otherwise, I'm actually back in the gym working out. Believe it or not, in 2021, I didn't hit the gym or train one bit unless it was just hitting golf balls. So last year now. I actually started hitting the gym a little bit, and now I'm hitting the gym even more, which I'm trying to, and work on little drills like that, because I just got an arrow swing last year too. So it's now actually trying to eat better too, because I think like this time last year I was up to 270 pounds, just eating whatever, not being in good shape, not really working hard for it. And then by the time I made to Worlds, I think I was down to 240 or maybe even less. So, so for me, it's just eat better, and work out more. So that's the make it complicated, simple terms. That's really it, And
I like it. Eat better and work out more. It doesn't get any simpler and better than that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm at an age and I've had too many injuries to do all this crazy technical stuff or try to eat try to eat like a bodybuilding diet because mentally I'm just like, this sucks. I want to do it now. So it's just back to simplicity. Eat better or work out harder.
I like it. How much do you follow other long drivers and kind of pick up on what they're doing?
I would say in 2021, I definitely I tried to watch as much as I could and try to, see what they do and see how I can apply it to myself. And nowadays I don't study a lot from a lot of people anymore. Unless if I'm watching someone post something, then I'm not like, wait a minute, what's that? Like, what is he doing there? So I do that not so often anymore. But yeah, 2021, I did a lot because I just didn't really know anything. I just I just played normal golf and I bought a lawn driver and I think I used it about 3 times before my first ever lawn driver event. So I knew it. So that was a big learning curve for me. And then I just stuck to Jay this past year to see what he'll tell me. I'd say what he can teach me and suggest for me and whatnot. So now I'm just more worried about myself. I feel like right now I got to make sure I, know what I'm doing, know the changes that I need to make, and just do my thing. And then maybe if I hit another plateau, then maybe I'll, go back to seeing what others are doing and what I can apply to myself.
Mm-hmm. I like your approach. It seems straightforward and it makes a lot of sense. There were a number of years ago now, where I was working at the time, Trevor Immelman said to me that it's, I don't know if he was necessarily saying it 100% for himself, but that what he would recommend for a lot of people is to just go out to the range, learn how to hit a draw, learn how to hit a cut, and do it kind of all internally. See what you have to do yourself, what you feel, what you think, and that kind of thing, rather than having an instructor that you don't know say like, oh, this is how you have to do it, and kind of forcing you to swing a certain way. And I think at that time, there were a couple of the top pros going through. There was an instructor at the time who was teaching stuff that was counterintuitive, maybe you would say, like a lot of TrackMan data that you're like, oh, well, actually the face is open for a draw, and like stuff that is true, but if you take it without the complete picture, it's not going to make any sense. It's going to confuse you. And he's like, you should just go out, figure it out for yourself, and that'll take you a long way. Because then when you're in competition, you're going to know what it is that you need to back up onto in those hard times, and like what do you need to do and think and feel and everything to hit that shot that you've practiced so many times. And you're not going to be like looking up in the stands, be like, coach, what do I do? You're going to be self-reliant. So I'd say, Jay's a great guy, so I'm not saying don't work with him, but I like your approach a lot in terms of keeping it who you are and doing what you do.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's one thing I really do like about Jay is that there's been a couple of things he says me to do, and I'm like, and I try, it's like, no, that ain't going to work. Rather if it was something from my back, like, cause I have an old back injury too. So there's certain things and certain things you want me to do, but actually my back can't work. It doesn't work that way, and as soon as it's like, okay, never mind. Well, we won't do that. We'll move on to the next thing. So I'm really good because he's not trying to really force anything on me.
Yeah.
Except he always forces on me to do it.
I'm sure that's in his nature being, I don't even want to guess, but some sort of a higher rank. I don't want to guess at the ranks, but he would yell at me if I got it wrong, I'm sure. So, but he's a good guy. Let's go back then, talk a little bit more about your experience. So you were in for 5 years. So it was a lot more, I'm sure, than just marching and learning. Yeah. So like, what else did you do? You have some pretty gnarly pictures on your Instagram.
So a lot of those pictures, I I have on, it was either me just trying to look cool, or I have a couple. A lot of them I think are posted from Afghanistan as well. So I did do one deployment. I did. Actually, I went to a place called Kyrgyzstan for about 2 months, and then from there they sent me to Afghanistan for I think 17 weeks. So so it was that. I went back up to, so after my training, after boot camp, you do that, and then after I go to school to learn, your occupation, and so I was an MP. So being stationed, just normal operations, it was just a lot of mostly security. It was just like a glorified security guard, the way I could put it. But then when I was deployed, that's why it's like kind of cool, if you guys say, yeah. So there's that, and then. So overall, the experience was good. There was a couple like close calls over there, just like from like mortars hitting the base. And we did a lot of internal entry control points and internal security on the base of Afghanistan. So there was a couple close calls there. Then there was one. I don't want to go into too much detail, but long story short, I hurt my back really bad. Fell off the truck and whatnot. I hurt my back, and I think I had about 3 weeks left my deployment. So, I was able to get up and walk around and have all my limbs intact. But I was like, all right, I'm ready to go home now. That was way too close. And so then, I came home, took my R&R, and eventually by the time I was back to duty, it was like, oh, man, my back's jacked up. So, eventually I got surgery and all of that. And that's it. But otherwise, besides that, just normal duty. It wasn't, we did a lot of training. It was like an MP stuff, a lot of, police type stuff, whatnot. Otherwise, it was a good experience. Even when I did get hurt, and even a year or two after that, it was still good. I actually wanted to stay in. I wanted to stay in after, because I wasn't really sure by the 4th year. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get in or stay out. But I wanted to stay in, but I couldn't heal up fast enough, because eventually they give me a time limit. It's like, all right, you got to be able to pass a PT test. And when that time came, I couldn't do it. So I just had to finish up my contract. I think I had about 4 months left. So I just finished it out, and then that was it.
Do you feel like during your time there, when you're having those experiences, like a mortar coming in and hitting you, I mean, the awareness of like your mortality and how really life is a fickle thing and it could end at any second, I feel like that matures people in a way that you can't get otherwise. I mean, I'm sure it changed you coming out.
Oh, for sure. There was a lot of things being at home I took for granted, for sure. But the simplicity, I actually liked being deployed, because I did take a lot of things at home for granted. Stupid things that people argue and have issues with, and then when you're over there, you only worried about 2 things. You're worried about staying alive and shooting back. And so I was like, okay, you don't have to worry about the problems at home and whatnot. At least I didn't have to. I didn't have to worry about anything at home or anything like that. But yeah, when there was a couple close calls like that, you do think like, whoa, that was pretty freaky, So I was lucky. I mean, there's thousands of millions who had it way worse. You know what I mean? So, I was lucky. I never got into like the real mess of things, being a full blown firefight or getting really injured, like having, oh, there goes my arm or my legs, or, so I think back to those, like, for my situation, as bad as it could have been, I turned out pretty dang good. So, and I know, and I had a buddy, who's overseas with me. I know he had a wife and kids already. He was my, roommate or over there. And so I know for him, it was starting to get to him mentally. It's like, I'm ready to come home. So I put myself like, what? He's got way more to lose than I do. So if anything really happens, I'm being his shield, because I feel like his life is more important than mine. Because for me, it was just me, So, But otherwise, overall, I enjoyed it, and I feel like I feel like at the time I felt like I had a real purpose when I was over there.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you did, and I'm sure that's. I mean, so like when you like earlier when I asked like what do you get nervous, like what's your thought process going into a competition, it should all be kind of people who listen to your answer to theirs should know what you've been through, because it's totally different than somebody who just grows up and goes to school, gets a job, whatever, and then they show up to competition. Like, yeah, they're nervous in a way that's totally different than what you're talking about, because you've been through some wild stuff. So then, and like you said, there are many people who have, you know, had obviously a lot worse, but like, so then you're through that. So like on your spectrum of like good and bad days and like something boring and something wild, that's a totally different spectrum than somebody who doesn't have those military experiences. So then you show
Right.
up to competition, and I think it's just a different perspective that you have. It's no longer like, oh, this is the most important thing in my life. I need to win this set or else, because like you've been shot at, you've been nearly blown up. So like that kind of stuff just
Right.
changes everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think before that too. I mean, I grew up being an athlete too, and competing, whether it's little league baseball or golf or tennis or whatever, and even like I said, mainly I did tennis in high school. So I grew up as an athlete in a competition anyway. So I think also I use those experiences and apply to today as well. So. But yeah, with long drive, I walk up with a smile on my face, and I feel as like I said, back to when we're warming up for the grid, when we're warming up, we have 10 minutes left to go. I put all the nerves there. I have all my nerves there, my anxiety there while I'm warming up, and then it's go time. And you walk up to the 6 pink golf balls, sit there. That's where it's just. I'm here for fun.
Yeah.
I'm here for fun.
Yeah. What was your, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit more, what was kind of your like day to day when you're over in Kyrgyzstan for 8 weeks or Afghanistan for 17? Are you working out a lot? What's going on?
Yeah. So we did do 12-hour shifts, and I think in both places our schedule was 3 days on, 1 day off. So whether it's before or after my shift, it's a lot of working out. Or on my days off, there's not much to do except just hang out with your buddies who's off the same day as you are and go eat and hit the gym. So especially those times.
Can you ever go off base?
At Kyrgyzstan, we had to get a special pass to go off base and almost do kind of get escorted off and do like a tour of the town. But I didn't really care to do that. And also in Kyrgyzstan, I was there in November and December, and the high temperature was about like 10 degrees. The low would get down to like -15. So on average, it was like 0. So, and we had to work outside a lot too. So I didn't want to be outside any more than I had to before. So trying to do a tour of the town, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll just stay in the gym or stay in my bunk or whatever. And then
was it at really high elevation? Is that why?
I think so. Yeah. Because at Kyrgyzstan, I'm trying to think of the name of the city. It's up at the very tip. So like it borders like Mongolia and China. So, but yeah, we would see mountains around us too. But yeah, it was definitely snowing a lot there too. And then Afghanistan. So I was in Afghanistan from January through April, and in the January it was like in the 20s. So actually did snow a little bit there. And then by April, that's when the temperature went up from like 40 to 80 degrees. So, and there we tried to do convoys with the Army. So, so basically for us, the Air Force guys, we took over a lot of the Army's infantry posts. So because they didn't have enough to go out and do convoys to like the local town or just do parameter checks, whatever. So then when my group got there, then they were able to do that. Then their primary mission was to go out and do convoys. And so in the beginning, we were only allowed to do a convoy with them if it was on our day off and if they had the space. So I unfortunately did not get to do that the day I was supposed to. our Air Force commander of the base said, nope, I don't want my Air Force guys going out there because as soon as he caught wind of it, he said, nope, no more Air Force guys off the grid. We're outside the wire. So, and a few of my other guys I was with, they got to do 1 or 2. And they said it was pretty cool. So I was bummed out. I really wanted to, get off that little circle there and, see what a convoy is like,
Yeah. A few months ago, I played in a tournament here. I live in Tucson, and it was up in Phoenix. Now it's called Toka Sticks, but it was the oldest golf course, I think, built for an Air Force base or something like that, at least in Arizona.
Oh, nice.
And so like learning a little bit of history about it there, like they were able to go and play, and it's, an Air Force golf course. Did they have anything like golf that you could do while you're deployed, a simulator or any sports?
They had, the weather kind of sucked because, like I said, we were there when it was snowing a lot, or it was just really cold. So I think if it was better weather, they probably would have, like, they had basketballs and, you could probably, grab a football and do stuff like that. But otherwise, Afghanistan, it was just tent city and dirt. But they did have a big, like, USO tent, and they had a lot of, like, TVs and Xboxes in there. And so since the weather kind of sucked to be outside, everyone was trying to get in there. So that was always full. And then there was times we had to write on a list and basically make an appointment so we can use an Xbox for an hour. So you had to wait a week, and hopefully you didn't get tasked to work that day, and then wait a week to go play Xbox for an hour. So so I was like, whatever. So that was pretty much it. It was just eat. Days off was really just sleeping in, eating and working out, and tell inappropriate stories to each other, to the boys, and that was about it.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. So looking forward now, what do you have any goals for the year? I know I think everybody who is competing at the pro level wants to win. They want to, but like, do you have any more specific goals of number of events and top finishes and stuff like that? Do you think that way, or are you kind of taking like your other just very straightforward approach? Like, I'm going to go and do my best.
I think every time I always want to go and do my best. I know, definitely for Worlds, my goal is to make the top 16 for sure. That was definitely my goal. This last one, again, I assumed I would make it through the first round, and then after that, I wasn't really sure. But ultimately, my goal was just to make the top 16, and then I would have been happy with that. If I got last place then so be it. But either way, I did pretty good. I mean, I feel like for my first ever professional world championships, making top 32, like, I'm happy with that. So obviously I want to do better. Obviously I want to hit the ball farther. Back to just, eat better and work out more. So get in better shape for sure. And hopefully with events, if it was up to me, I would do all of them. I wish I could do all of them, but fortunately I can't. All my money goes to living in California. So,
now, can you drive to Mesquite? What part of California are you in?
Yeah, I'm in the central coast of California. So if anyone knows where Santa Barbara is or St. Louis Obispo, I literally live in between Santa Barbara and St. Louis Obispo. And it's about, without traffic or without stopping, I could probably make it to Mesquite in about 6 hours. But along the way, you eventually hit a little bit of LA traffic, or sometimes, Caltrans in the middle of the desert is working on something. So if I can make it there, like in like 7 hours, I'm happy with that. So
nice. It's about the same for me, maybe 7.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see how many events I could do. So I think Mesquite in March, we'll see if I can make that one. I want to try to. We just got to see. I got some things coming up. So we'll see if I can make it to that. If not, I'll definitely make it in May. So at least want to get those out of the way, and obviously for Worlds. And I really want to do either, Denver? There's been in Denver, either that or the one in Utah as well. I really want to go to one of those as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, those are both beautiful grids, and And of course, it's fun to hit at elevation. But yeah, so the one in Denver is on a turf farm, and it's kind of like downhill, and you're looking where it is as well. It's in North Denver, so you're I think it's southwest facing the grid. So the grid is a little below you, but you're also looking kind of like down on the city, and then you have this giant backdrop of the Rockies, and it's a beautiful place. And of course, it's a really nice grid because it's a turf farm.
Yeah.
And then Utah as well, you're looking into the mountains again. I feel like that grid is a little tighter. It's a little different. But yeah, they're both great.
Nice.
So you didn't get to either last year?
No, unfortunately, just personally things came up. So after Mesquite in May, then some things happened, and unfortunately, I just had to stay at home for a little while. Couldn't go anywhere, and then so then it was just by the time I think it was like August, is like I guess I'm just going to go to World. I just got to save my money and so I can go to Worlds because I got the invite. So I was like, cool, I got the invite for that, and I was just stay home and save up money and prepare to hit at Worlds. So
Yeah.
So we'll see how many. Yeah, so that's all I did last year. So I really, because last year I had planned on going to Denver as well, to Denver and Florida. But things happen, So
Yep, for sure.
We'll see how it goes this year.
The Florida one was really cool as well, and hopefully I haven't seen, but I don't know if we're going back there. But it was really cool because it was on polo grounds, so it's like the biggest, flattest area you could ever imagine, and then a nice grid kind of in the middle. I think there were little, like, I don't know if it was the day before. It could have been the day before that I saw it, but they had some sort of a polo event, so people were riding around on the horses doing all kinds of stuff. So pretty cool. Yeah.
Right on.
Well, awesome, man. Look forward to seeing you in competition.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me on. Oh, I do want to mention one thing. You can weave it in or not weave it in. So one of my driver heads I've been beating the crap out of, and I wanted to kind of, smooth out the face. I had a bunch of nicks and scratches, and so I was trying to like smooth it out, right? But then I want to show you my normal one first. You can see it before and after. So this is, looks good, looks normal, right? So then with the other one, I've been trying to clean and try a little polish on it and yada, yada. I went too far with it. I got carried away, and now it looks like this. Yeah. So I'm like, God, crap, I can't use this thing in competition anymore. So be careful.
That's probably not conforming.
Yeah. So be careful how you try to clean your clubs and try to smooth out the old, because this is just a practice one, you know what I mean? But now it's like, now it's definitely only practice. So.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do because you get marks, you get whatever. And I think like if you just take a little acetone or whatever and you can wipe off all the marks, but anytime you get into buffing the face or polishing it at all, you're probably making it non-conforming. And when there is CT testing, it'll probably show up as such. It's a risky thing because I get it. You want to clean your head, you want to whatever, but and there, I mean, so for any manufacturer, and like you could list all of them. They'll all have problems when we're swinging as fast as we are, when we're hitting balls as hard as we are. Everything is going to fail at some point. Everything is going to crack, going to flatten, whatever. And usually right before that happens, right before it breaks, it gets really hot. It gets really fast. So there's kind of that temptation to like, oh wait, I'm hitting this like really fast right now. I want to keep going with it. And then at some point it's going to become non-conforming. So you got to be kind of aware of that.
Yeah, I did hit on a TrackMan after I did that, and the numbers did not improve. I compared both. I compared them both, and that one was not. I think it was probably a little bit worse because this is just the one it is the only head I practice with. Because I only had two right now, so the other one I'm just trying to keep as fresh as I can for competition. So
yeah, then there's also the chance that when you polish it like that, you're going to be wearing one of the structural points thin, and then it'll crack right away, and so then you don't even get the hot spot. You just get kind of a dead face. So
yeah, so for that's my lesson to everyone out there.
Yeah, don't polish it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not worth it.
Exactly.
Nice, man. Well, I really appreciate you opening up and sharing, a variety of things with me about your service, about your experience, competing, everything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really cool to get that insight, and it's really cool to kind of then think like how obviously I can never simulate that. I can never gain that experience, but what can I do personally to try to like take a step in that direction? Like, how can I get a little bit more disciplined? How can I get more aware of the reality of like what life is, what competition is, and all that kind of stuff. And talking with people like you who have been through it adds a lot of value and perspective. So thank you for that.
No worries, man. I appreciate it. It's
awesome.
I think that's what's cool about this seat where you're sitting at too. Kind of like you, or especially or someone like Joe Rogan who's been doing it for over 10 years. You get to sit down and you get a bunch of knowledge from a lot of different people, and they're all smart in their own way. And I think that's what I like about you is for other people watching. Not only for you, you can learn something from someone on each podcast, but other people who watch the other podcasts regularly, it's the same thing. They could pick up something like, never thought about that before, to get a learning lesson out of it.
I appreciate that. And I feel the same way that everybody I've had on, there's more than one thing to learn from it. And it's, it's their own perspective, and there's something valuable there. And you can learn that I think that's the best way to learn, is getting experience from other people to kind of jumpstart your own experiences and progression. So
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. I look forward to seeing you in hopefully just a couple months out on the grid.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Cool. All right. See you.